When it comes to toilets, having something that's separate, that doesn't all go into one thing to make a poo soup, as I like to call it, or a poo slosh, as some other people call it. When it comes to chemical toilets, you have to suit yourself up like you're gonna go into surgery, because it splashes everywhere, it gets everywhere. I normally, as myself, when I was doing it, when I owned a chemical toilet, would suit myself from head to toe. I would get my hair out the way, tie my hair back, I would zip up a big coat, and then I would put my really old waterproof trousers on to make sure that it wasn't getting everywhere. Gloves is probably a good one as well, but I used to make sure that I was going for a shower straight afterwards, because you literally feel like it is all over you. It splashes everywhere and it is literally disgusting. Chemical toilets or compost toilets, which one is better? So I have had both. I have a compost toilet at the moment and I have had a chemical toilet. We'll start with the chemical toilet. So the chemical toilet, there's quite a lot of downsides to a chemical toilet, to be quite honest. If you are on your own, it will last a week with number 1 and number 2s. A lot of the time people won't do number 1s in them, they won't have a wee in them, which is fair enough, but there's nothing to then break your number 2 down to make it more watery and easier to get it out. So then you'll need like a hose and things like that. You'll definitely need a hose anyway, even if you're doing number 2s in them, to clean them out, because they do end up smelling quite a lot. And the problem that I had with them, because I've had a compost toilet for most of my VanLife years, and yeah, finding somewhere to empty them is an absolute nightmare. Then you have to buy chemicals on top of that. I ended up stopping buying the chemicals because I just didn't see the point, and you had to have somewhere specific to empty them for that purpose. And one of the problems that I found is they were really hard to clean, and they also break down quite quickly because it's plastic. It breaks down really quickly. So especially with like your toxic waste in them and the chemicals in them, they end up breaking the plastic down, and the divider that you open and shut for the like hole, that ends up breaking quite easily as well. They also leak, which is not an ideal thing to have in the van. You really just don't want that, unless you've got like a shower room that it can go in, so if it leaks in there it doesn't particularly matter. I just don't like them. They are not for me, and I think especially if you're full time in them, they just aren't very good at all. And you can't just empty them anywhere. You've got to have a specific place for them. And I know in Scotland it's a little bit easier to find like places, especially on the NC 500. It is a lot easier to find chemical emptying points. But England, they don't really do it. I know like in Europe and things, it's a little bit easier to find places where you can empty them and find water and things like that. But I just don't think it was for me. It is really hard to find somewhere that is chemical toilet worthy to be able to empty them. So you can't just empty them in like a public restroom and things like that, because it is illegal. So, especially if you're putting chemicals in them and people just see you emptying a chemical toilet and assume that you've got chemicals in them. So it is a bit of a nightmare to find places to empty them. So I opted for a compost toilet. And I have made my own compost toilet, as you can see here. And I've literally, I think it cost me about £6 to £8 to build my compost toilet, because I made it out of pallet wood and extra wood that I had lying around in my vans. With a compost toilet, you can have the separating your number 1s and number 2s. So I have just got a £6 bucket that I then put a really strong bin bag in, and that's for my number 2s. And to make it not smell, I put ash from my log burner in them, which is really, really good. That helps quite a lot. And then you can just tie it up and put it in any bin whatsoever. And then with the number 1s, because it's separated, within the function of the top section thing, so it makes sections it out, so you pee on one side and do your number twos in the other, you can just empty that your wees anywhere, because it's just like going outside and having a wee. You can just empty it anywhere, which is quite nice, and that lasts quite a long time. So if you were going to do that, I would opt for that. I know a lot of people use like hamster bedding and rabbit bedding, so like not hay but the sawdust, that's the one I was looking for. People use sawdust, and yeah, that's fine, but you've got to remember that that's like a constant thing that you've then got extra money that you've got to fork out for, that sometimes is just a bit of a pain. Sometimes it's a little bit of a pain to find. So if you do have a log burner, I would suggest using the ash, because you've got to empty the ash anyway from your log burner. You might as well use the ash, put it in a little tub, have a little tub next to your next to your toilet, and you can just sprinkle it in on top, and it just blocks the smell completely, which is brilliant. So if I was to say that, like, I would opt for a chemical toilet. I know chemical toilets are a lot more expensive to buy as a full setup already, but you don't need to do that. I know a lot of people think that, oh, we need to buy this and we need to buy that when they're building vans, but you just don't. You just don't. There's so many options and there's so many ways to make it so that it is the cheapest way possible. So you could just buy for, I think they're like 50 to 60 pounds, the separator, and then build the toilet around the separator, which I know a lot of people have done that. And it does make it a lot easier. Just make it so you got the lid that lifts up so you can sit on it. Some people do the separator for your ones and twos come at a certain size. You can just put a normal size toilet seat on it, which you can get on Facebook Marketplace really cheap. You can get them in the shops really cheap. Or you can just do what I've done and build a little one so that it's not taking up a lot of room or a lot of space, and just have it for your number twos and then go outside for your number ones, you know? Because it doesn't really matter. It's just wee, and a lot of the time it doesn't break anything down. I know that like sheep and things like that do it on the field and stuff, and it doesn't really make much of a difference. So that's personally how I would do it. That's what I would do in that situation, is go for a compost toilet, because they are the best. And if you do have the money to buy a Thetford compost toilet or one of those really nice fancy compost toilets, I would do it if you choose in between, because at the end of the day, with a chemical toilet, as I said, they break down, the plastics in them break down quite easily and quite a lot, and they do end up leaking. So you can go outdoors and buy one for £50, but you're going to probably spend £50 every year or year and a half maybe on a toilet, and that's just not feasible. Especially when I first moved to Scotland, we didn't have a go outdoors. We didn't have anything like that. We've only just last year got go outdoors, so it's one of those situations where it's kind of like you just want to think about how you can not spend as much money as possible. The whole point of living in a van is to try and save money and not spend as much money as possible. So your best bet is to probably get a compost toilet, because you're not having to spend money on chemicals. If you've got a log burner, once you've bought the toilet and you've got a log burner, you don't have to buy anything on top of that, only bin bags. And to be honest, bin bags aren't that expensive. I think the bin bags I buy are like £1.50 or £2, something like that. So it is quite cheap. You just want to make sure that you're getting the thick, really thick bin bags for your number twos, because you don't want the bag to split. You don't want the bag to split, and you don't really want to be doing your number ones in them either, because it can leak. So, you know, and a lot of people have buckets lying around. I literally went into Screwfix and got a bucket for £6. I got one of the proper hardware buckets. And a lot of people just have them lying around. You can find one on Facebook Marketplace for like a couple of quid. You could probably go to build a shard, get one for a couple of pounds. You could probably go to a car boot sale and get one for a couple of quid, maybe even cheaper than that. That would be what I would suggest for getting a chemical or compost toilet. I would always opt for the cheapest and easiest thing that isn't going to keep causing hassle in the van, and something that is the easiest thing to dispose of when you are traveling around, because especially if you're doing van life in England, it's not easy, and Wales, they just are not made or built for van lifers at all. Europe's a lot better, they're a lot more happy with the van community, certainly in specific places. So France is quite good for it. They've got a lot of like chemical drop like points, they've got a lot of water points, they've got a lot of like electric hookup points, they've just got a lot of places which make it a lot easier. I think Spain has as well, but I think they are getting quite frustrated with a lot of van lifers, but they shouldn't have such a lovely country, should they really? So that would be my suggestion with those sort of aspects. Yeah, that's just my opinion, but it's entirely up to you. It is good to obviously research all of these things and make sure that you have a lot of other people's opinions that have been doing it for a long period of time. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and leave a comment on what you have and what you think is the best thing, and if you have a chemical toilet, what you hate about it and what you love about it, and if you don't, if you have a compost toilet, what you hate and love about your compost toilet. And tell me if you found any places that are kind of really hard for both of these things. But yeah, I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!